Folks, I'm Ryan7. I am currently in the midst of an 18-year journey to read every single DC comic ever released. Generally, I read 10 comics a day and post a video a day, but occasionally, once a week, I'll upload a bigger video like this that will be 7 videos put together, 7 of the daily videos, and I'll post this to give you an easier way to digest my content. So, with that being said, let's get right into it. Today we start with More Fun Comics number 55. We get the Spectre. Not much interesting happened here, but the Spectre did get his first supervillain, Zor. I do wonder how the Spectre's identity stuff works, because he uses a normal body most of the time, but in this issue it's implied that he possesses the body and then leaves it, but it's his body. It's his body and a real body, but he leaves it sometimes to go be the Spectre. But also, how does that work? Does the body just stay there? Does it just stand there still, rigid? Or is it like Ichigo and it comes to life and it has a very basic, it does very basic functions? Well, I wonder how that works. Also, God just helps the Spectre here. Just straight up gives him a hand, which is pretty cool. Also, this issue, we get introduced to Dr. Fate for the first time, which is pretty cool. He's probably my favorite magic user in DC. Not that I don't really read any magic users in DC though, so that's a very low bar. Basically, what happens in this issue is it throws us right in. This is an intro for Dr. Fate, but it feels like we're in the middle of a story, really. So there's a magic guy named Wotan, who really doesn't like Dr. Fate and wants him dead, because he sees them as equals, and he wants to be the strongest magic user. So he hypnotizes a normal dude to choke this woman who had been helping Dr. Fate find Wotan. So the Dr. Fate stops the hypnotized guy, unhypnotizes him, saves both him and the girl, and then the girl helps lead Dr. Fate to Wotan. They get in a fight. Dr. Fate fights a gorilla, and eventually Dr. Fate... Also, we learned that because they both get their magic from the same source, that they can't defeat each other unless one of them is caught by surprise. So Dr. Fate manages to catch Wotan by surprise and throws him off a building and kills him. Which is pretty cool, I guess. Little weird to have your arch nemesis die in the first appearance, because Wotan really was built up to be this arch nemesis, and he's dead. Mystery Men Comics number 10, Blue Beetle stuff, not much happens here. Dan doesn't almost drown, which isn't great. How do you Blue Beetle and you almost drown? But he takes down a gang by the end. Nickel Comics number 1. Now this is the star of today. This is the star of the show. Because in Nickel Comics number 1, we get introduced to a character I'm sure you all know and love, and I'm sure you'll be surprised hearing me talk about him in DC. Isn't this supposed to be a character for a different popular comic company? Anyways, I'm sure you all know who he is. He's, American. He's a weak... Here, let me describe his origin story, and you can guess what character this is. He is a weak, short, white man with blonde hair who really desperately wants to join the army and help fight in World War II. But he can't because he's too short and weak. They just won't let him. So, he goes to this doctor, and he gets a special serum injected in him, and it makes him huge. It gives him muscles, he gets strong, he gets taller. He becomes a super soldier. That's right. I'm talking about, of course, the great, the amazing Bullet Man. That's right, Bullet Man, baby. So... Bullet Man. That's Bullet Man. That's Bullet Man's origin story for you. Sounds a lot like Captain America's. That's kind of crazy. Also, this issue opens with a police officer saying, we torture people to get confessions out of them. Think that's illegal. I don't think you're allowed to do that. The torture, and also it would mean the trial would be invalid and the entire case would get thrown out. So you're putting the case in danger for no reason. But that's not important. So yeah, this guy's just literally Captain America, but before Captain America, I think. When was Captain America introduced? When was Captain America created? 1940, actually. Okay, so maybe not. Maybe Bullet Man is a knockoff of Captain America. Who knows? But, I don't know. Not a whole lot happens in this issue. Bullet Man fights some guys, saves the day. He creates, for some reason, the serum also enhances his mind. So he creates a helmet that makes his head look like a bullet, and it's a gravity helmet that gives him flight. That's just a thing that happens. So he could do that. Nickel Comics #2, more Bullet Man stuff. Bullet Man forces the newspaper chief to write a story about him. Slam Bang Comics #3 and Smash Comics #10. Nothing much happens in either of those. Wiz Comics 34. So there's this woman named Beautia. You guys haven't met her. I have. She's the Queen of Venus. Of course, she's the president of Venus and a friend of the evil Sivana. She now wants to be the president of the United States. So Sivana kidnaps Billy and erases his memory, making him forget how to become Captain Marvel, which means Billy now has amnesia. He doesn't remember anything. So Beautia doesn't know Billy is Captain Marvel, and so she sees this kid in Dr. Sivana's office, and she's like, "Kid, how do you get here? Here, I'll help you hide." So she hides him away. Sivana's men come in, and Sivana comes in, and Sivana's men turn on him, tying him and Beautia to a barrel of TNT. I feel like they don't make those. I feel like that's not a real thing. I don't know. That's not a real thing. They don't make barrels of TNT. So I don't know why that's such like a prevalent imagery in media. But Billy follows like a sewer line, and it ends up leading him to the Captain Marvel base somehow. So he sees the word Shazam on the wall and says it, and he becomes Captain Marvel. And for some reason, it reinstates his memory. So he becomes Captain Marvel completely by accident. He says the word by accident, which I think is a stupid conclusion. But then he basically saves Beautia and Sivana. He puts them in a rocket, sends them back to Venus. Sivana escapes the rocket with a parachute. Beautia goes back to Venus. Sivana returns to Earth. Action Comics #25 with Superman. So, there's a bunch of people around who have been carrying large amounts of money. So, bank, trucks, some guy delivering like $5,000 to his buddy. These people suddenly lose their memory and lose the money. Suddenly there's just a blank spot and the money's gone in that blank spot of time. Between when they were supposed to live in it and when... Okay. There was a time they picked it up and the time they delivered it. Between the time they were supposed to deliver it and the time they picked it up, they were, supposed to have the money. That amount of time is gone now. And by the time they get to the part where they deliver it, they've lost their memory and they don't remember what happened. And they lost the money. So, Clark writes a story about this because he overhears some people talking about it, so it gets out, even though it's supposed to be a secret. Clark hears that Lois is going to a hypnotist to find out Superman's secret identity. I don't know how she thinks that's going to work. That's not what hypnotists do, but sure. She wants the hypnotist to hypnotize her into knowing who Superman is, which that's not how hypnotists work. They can't make you know anything. That's not how they work. They have to also know the thing if they want to do that. So I don't know what Lois thought she was going to get out of this, but anyways, Clark realizes, that hypnotist is probably the bad guy who's been making all these people lose their memories. And guess what? Clark was right. So he breaks the hypnotism. Medini escapes with Lois by hypnotizing Clark and not being able to move. They go on a plane. For some reason, every single person on this plane wanted to see a magic trick. That's not believable at all. I don't believe that for 1 second. I'm sure a lot of people wanted to see a magic trick. Not every single person. Come on. Every single person wanted to see a magic trick? Really? Are we sure? Are you sure? So Medini hypnotizes the puppet, forces him to land in a cave. Superman jumps around to clear his mind. He ends up getting rid of the hypnotism. Oh yeah. So there's a part where Superman frees himself of the hypnotism partially, but not fully. So he can't fully control his movement. So he's like bumping into things, jumping too high, smashing things back, and his powers are completely out of whack. So he jumps into the air and sort of just spins around and jumps around for a bit to clear himself of that. And that clears his mind. So then Medini sends the plane, now filled with passengers, to crash. Now that he has all the money. Superman saves the plane. He frees all the passengers, and then... It's sort of vague, but I think he throws the plane at Medini, which obviously kills him. So that's pretty crazy, Superman. I don't think you should be throwing planes at people, even if they are hypnotist villains. I think there was a better way to stop him. I did really like Medini as a villain. I think he was a good villain. I think he was fun. I think he was funny. That's a. I hope he returns one day. I do. I hope he returns one day. I think he's awesome. Then we have Adventure Comics 51. Not much interesting happens here, and All American Comics number 50. Not much interesting happens here. I did take a little 4-day break, but I'm back now doing daily stuff again. So All-Star Comics, the Hawkman story is pretty racist, but All-Star Comics is just a bunch of, different tales of some of DC's most popular superheroes. There's Hawkman, there's Sandman, there's a bunch of stuff. In Batman number 2, we see, Joker's in jail, obviously, and Batman plans to lobotomize the Joker for some reason. But then there's this crime syndicate that plans to make the Joker their boss. So they rush this surgery that he's having to save his life because he cut himself or something. He self-harmed in prison, which ended up making it so he had to get surgery, life-saving surgery, and the crime syndicate rushes the surgery to help him escape from prison. So Batman goes to this place. He starts fighting the cops for some reason. He kills some of the cops. And then the cops kill Batman. Turns out it's not Batman. It's a member of the crime syndicate who's pretending to be Batman to distract the cops while the crime syndicate helps Joker escape. For some reason, Batman kidnaps Catwoman. He just kind of forces her to go in his car, and he just drives her away. He promises to let her go, and he calls her the prettiest jewel thief, which I thought was funny. This is Catwoman's second appearance, and they're already flirting. But yeah. He says he'll let her go if she tells him what the syndicate's plan for the Joker is. If she knows, he figures she knows because she has a lot of info on the criminal world or something. So Catwoman says they're keeping him in a hospital plane until he recovers, and they're gonna do a bunch of stuff and have him bleed the crime syndicate or whatever. So Batman goes after the Joker, leaving Robin to tail and follow Catwoman because they suspect she's hiding more than she lets on. After recovering, Joker immediately, the second he's able to move and speak on his own, he immediately double-crosses the crime syndicate. Nobody is surprised by that. The only people who are surprised by it are the crime syndicate themselves. So Batman does arrive, though, and starts fighting the syndicate while Joker slips away. Joker catches Catwoman stealing the jewels Joker himself planned to steal. Joker stops her, and he prepares to kill her, and then Robin swoops in, Joker knocks Robin out, and prepares to poison him. Catwoman distracts the Joker long enough for Batman to swoop in. Both Batman and Robin make jokes about Joker's surgery, which is a bit fucked up. He just had a surgery, and both of them are, joking about it, which is a little messed up, if you ask me. Right, the man just had surgery. Chill on him. He just had surgery. You don't gotta make fun of his surgery. I get he's a bad guy. You don't gotta make fun of his life-changing surgery. Joker and Batman then have a sword duel that ends in Batman falling off a balcony. Batman does catch some vines to save himself because for some reason they're in a castle. I don't remember how they got there. It doesn't make any sense. Catwoman managed to barricade herself and Robin in the house, trapping Joker on the balcony. Joker sets fire to the house using a flamethrower that he has for some reason. Batman managed to climb back up to the balcony, knocks Joker out, saves Robin and Catwoman. Catwoman dives into the ocean, escaping with the jewel cask. Turns out Batman separated the cask and the jewels, so Catwoman just has the cask. Batman has the real jewels. And that is Batman number 2. Not the entire thing. Obviously, there's other stories, but that's the main story that I wanted to talk about because I think that's the best one. It was fun. It was fun. You got some Batman, Catwoman, Catwoman, sort of anti-hero action. Not really anti-hero, but she's she's a villain who does the right thing sometimes. Yeah, I think that's accurate. And it's cool to see that she has that characterization from the very beginning. Joker is obviously fun. I'm sure he'll return in future issues. Robin didn't get a lot to do here, really. He followed Catwoman, I guess, which is good. He did something. Yeah, I think that's all I have to say. Blue Beetle number 2, nothing much interesting happened. Crack Comics number 2 is pretty terrible. Detective Comics number 40. This is technically the first mention of Argus, but here they make movies instead of being a government branch. So there's a new horror movie being made, and Bruce visits the set because Julie, his fiance, is in the horror movie. So we do see a couple different people who are being built up as suspects for the murder mystery, because it's like a murder mystery, sort of fun murder mystery issue. And we see some people built up as suspects. There's some fights going on, some disagreements, some arguments. So a few days later, the movie starts shooting. So there's a scene where the main actress is about to get murdered. The leading lady, right? The main actress isn't actually gonna get murdered because it's a play. It's a movie. And so she's about to get murdered in the movie. Suddenly, the lights go out. Some guy with a weird face turns off the lights. When the lights come back on, the lead actress is actually very much dead, stabbed to death. So this launches an investigation. Police do an investigation, but they can't find the killer. They can't figure it out. So they decide, okay, movie's back on. We're just going to continue filming. I don't know, why not? So, a few days later, the movie continues filming. Julie is set to be the next person to play the victim, which puts her in a bad spot. Bruce and Dick dress up as Batman and Robin to investigate before filming resumes to hopefully catch the criminal before Julie dies. Bruce saves the director from some gangsters who want protection money. The director, Bentley, tells Batman the suspect is likely Fred Walker, the victim's ex-boyfriend. Batman investigates Fred, his home, and finds him bleeding out. Fred's last words are, "Clayface, oh, Clayface, oh, Clayface." I don't know what. That was a stupid bit. Robin notices lights on in the Dread Castle set and decides to investigate. Clayface attacks Robin and throws Robin off the Dread Castle into the waters below. Luckily, Batman happens to be nearby and dives into the water, saving Robin's life. Clayface does plan to kill Julie next. The next day, Julie is filming her death scene. Clayface prepares to throw a knife at Julie to kill her, which is a risky move, by the way, because there's a good shot you miss. You don't have perfect aim, Clayface. You're not gonna make that shot. It's a risky shot. You're not gonna make that. So Batman knocks the knife out of Clayface's hand using a batarang, and then a big fight scene between Batman and Clayface breaks out. Clayface gets a good hit on Batman and nearly escapes, but Robin manages to stop him. Batman ties up Clayface and the killer is captured. So Batman removes the makeup on Clayface's face, revealing Basil Karlo, the ex-star of the original Dread Castle. Turns out, Basil was killing because he hated that Todd was playing his old role, and he wanted to eventually kill Todd. However, he killed the people he did in the way that he did because the many horror movies he had been in had taken over his mind and soul, and so he was following the plot of the movie. I know it doesn't make sense. I'm as confused as you are. It doesn't make any sense, actually. I don't get it. I don't understand, really, what that is. Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. But Batman and Robin do get offered movie roles that they do deny, of course. Feature Comics number 33. Flash Comics number 6. There's some, Olympic Games stuff. So, there's a big scandal with a gambler who's working with the assistant commissioner, and they are doing this thing where they're drugging the favorites, right? It's like the Olympic tryouts or something, and they're for some reason betting on it to see who gets into the Olympics, and they're drugging all the favorites by putting this stuff on their shirts that causes them to have shortness of breath, which makes it hard for them to run. So Jay, he uses flash speed to figure everything out. Yeah, and he does it. Yep, and he does join the tryouts at one point. And this is the issue where I realized Jay Garrick just doesn't have a secret identity. There's just nothing there. He's just not even trying to have a secret identity. He doesn't want one. And I was thinking he was trying to have a secret identity, but was really bad at it. That's not true. There's no secret identity. He's Jay Garrick and also the Flash, and everybody just knows that. He's okay with everybody knowing that. So, I was under different impressions, but I'm glad I understand that now. More Fun Comics number 56. Jim Corrigan visits a department store. We're starting with the Spectre. Jim Corrigan visits a department store who reported that they were being threatened. An explosion goes off, and Jim becomes the Spectre, just barely saving civilians. He once again becomes Jim Corrigan, investigates a guy named Bentley, who is the one threatening the department store. Bentley does deny any connection to the explosions. So Jim leaves. He notices he's being followed by Bentley's men, who plan to kill him. So Jim becomes the Spectre and crushes them in their car. He turns like Giant and picks up their car and throws it. He follows a telephone line. He shrinks down and goes inside the telephone and follows the line somehow. And he follows it to the big boss, who finds out there's a plan to stop a fur truck and steal the furs, so they can sell the furs. So Jim kills one of the guys and then follows the other two. Back at their base, Bentley tells the two lackeys to go inside the department store and set off a bomb, which will go off 10 minutes after they pull the pin, but the bomb is actually set to go off right when they pull the pin, which will kill them both and get Bentley what he wants at the department store. So the Spectre hypnotizes Bentley and forces him to enter the store. He freezes all three of them and calls the police. He becomes Jim Corrigan and works with the police to stop them. Dr. Fate and Inza have to journey to the Dark Regions to ensure that Wotan's soul is gone. The gods of old show Fate that Wotan is alive indeed. So Wotan has gained the power to destroy the Earth utilizing the electric current of the poles. Fate gets help from an eagle who just tells him some stuff. And then Fate finds Wotan's home and, breaks in. And there's a big fight, and then Wotan prepares to pull the world-destroying lever. He pulls it, and nothing happens. Because turns out, Fate bathed the house in energy while Wotan was monologuing. Which, I guess the energy stopped the pole shifting from happening. I don't know. Fate punches Wotan out and buries him alive. Forever. Mystery Men Comics number 11. Dan and his cop partner are kidnapped by gangsters who suspect one of them is Blue Beetle. Dan manages to defeat them and help Mike escape. The castle blows up. Nickel Comics number 3. Not much interesting there. And that, folks, is the 10 comics for today. We start with Nickel Comics number 3 and 4. Not much happens in either of those. Same as Slam Bang Comics number 4 and Smash Comics number 11. Our first real stuff that I want to talk about comes from Superman number 5. There's only one story in Superman. There's two I want to talk about, but there's only one I really want to talk about, a lot. So, in the first story, there's a guy who's encouraging kids to gamble their lunch money. So there's a slot machine in his shop, and he's encouraging kids to spend their money at it. So, one of the kids leaves the store to get to school because he needs his perfect attendance, and he almost gets hit by a truck, but Clark jumps in front and stops and saves him. And he manages to make it look like a freak accident, like they were both rolled perfectly under the truck to just barely survive. So then Lois is like, "Hey Clark, that was kind of impressive." So Clark faints to make her hate him again. Because, he has to do that. So turns out Lois is like, "Hey, we gotta investigate this." Turns out some gangster is putting these slot machines in the store. Some gangster named Slug. And Lois is like, "Hey, let's go confront him. Let's just go confront him without any backup or anything. Just me and this wimpy guy here. Let's go confront this gangster." And that's a good idea. So they go confront the gangster, and Lois decides it's a good idea to threaten the gangster. Obviously, that ends up getting them captured. And the gangster threatens to kill Clark unless Lois signs a fake confession, which states that her editor is Slug's partner. So Lois signs, and Clark in the other room becomes Superman. Superman punches the wooden door off its hinges and, escapes his cell. But he punches the wooden door hard enough to knock it off its hinges, and it goes like flying too. But then he catches it. He doesn't let it hit the floor because he's worried that would make too much sounds. As if he didn't just punch it loud enough to make like a sonic boom, dude. The punch sounded... There's no way it hitting the floor would have been any louder than you punching it. So I don't know why he did that. He did not need to do that. But okay. I get it, I guess. I get it. So, Superman goes on one of his famous toddler meltdowns. He destroys all the slot machines. He does this, in almost all of his Golden Age appearances, right? He finds out about something bad, and he has a meltdown about it and destroys it all. Okay. Now, the thugs, the Slugs, gang members, they approach Superman.
And despite the Daily Planet constantly writing about Superman all the time, for some reason, these professional gangster thugs still don't know that he's bulletproof and they're trying to shoot him. And then even after the bullets don't work, they think maybe an axe will work. A bullet didn't work. You think an axe is going to work? Are you stupid? These guys are dumb. It doesn't make any sense. The Daily Planet is canonically constantly writing about Superman. Lois Lane is a huge fan of Superman. She is always writing about him. That's like canon in these current issues. But still, he's a popular figure. In universe, in like his 4th issue, there was that plot about him, having like a copycat. But no. How would the thugs know that he's bulletproof? How would they know that? They're not gonna know that. No, the thugs are the only people in Metropolis who know nothing about Superman. You'd think they'd be more tapped into the news than anybody else. You'd assume the gangsters would be more tapped into the news than everybody else. They can know what's going on. Especially about the big super guy that stops specifically gangsters most of the time. I feel like they know a lot about that. But I guess not. I guess they're just not tapped into the news. I guess so. So, Superman pretends to be unconscious, and, it's a little funny moment, but he, saves everyone. He gets Slug's private records and gives them to the Daily Planet so that they are able to out-Slug to the world and clear the editor's name. Superman starts getting rid of the slot machines and polluting the river. He pollutes the river. He decides, okay, I'm going to get rid of these slot machines by dumping them in the river. So, he's just doing pollution. Superman saves pollution, I guess. That's who we're saving now. We're saving pollution.
Just fixed my mic. Sorry about that. I was using the wrong one. I forgot about that. I'm not restarting this video, though. So, there's a whole testification court case, and everybody is put down, right? The Slug is imprisoned. The Daily Planet is cleared of their name, and everybody is happy, and Superman gets a little PSA at the end of the issue. Also, in another story this issue, Superman interviews some people on the Great Depression, and it turns out Lex Luthor is behind the Great Depression. Okay. We also learn in this story that Clark made his suit out of indestructible material, out of cloth, and he can contort his face. So we learn some important things. Mainly the cloth thing, that Clark made his own suit and he made it out of cloth. That's the main lore addition. Specifically the indestructible cloth. Clark making it kind of gets gone with down the line where Ma makes it, but for now it's Clark. And we also learned Clark can contort his face to look different now for some reason. In Wiz Comics number 5, there is a criminal who plans a heist for 5 years and steals $250 million, which is pretty impressive. The rest of the issue sucks. I don't fucking care. Action Comics 26, there's nothing happens, man. I don't care. There's fake doctors who have a cure for something, and there's a whole plot about a girl Superman is safe. It doesn't matter. It was boring. It was pretty boring. Adventure Comics 52, not much happening there. All American Comics number 16. Now this is the one we really gotta talk about, because this is the introduction. The very first appearance ever of Green Lantern. And you know his secret identity. He's a bit cocky. He runs a big locomotive. He helps that run. He works. He works with a big locomotive. He finds the Green Lantern, which is used by willpower. And he's a pretty great guy all around, despite being a little cocky sometimes. That's right, your favorite Green Lantern, Alan Scott, baby. So Alan Scott is a young engineer in charge of construction, specifically in charge of a train. He does construction on a train. So he's riding this train with a bunch of other guys, and they're going somewhere. And then the train friggin' crashes. It goes down. He's the only survivor. Turns out he survived because he was holding a mysterious Green Lantern. A voice comes out of the lantern, and it explains that years ago, in China, in ancient China, a meteor crashed in the center of a big city. Inside of the meteor was a green flaming liquid metal. the metal spoke, and it said, 3 times shall I flame green. First, to bring death. Second, to bring life. Third, to bring power. The fire disappears, turning into just and the metal turns into just a lump of green metal. So some guy makes it into a lamp. The lamp lights on fire and kills a bunch of people, and it says, first to bring death. So that's the first time it lights up. The lamp trades many hands over the years, eventually ending up in an American insane asylum. So it's given to one of the patients, and it makes him sane again. It lights up and it makes him sane. And that's second, to bring life. The lamp flames once more for Alan Scott to bring power in the present. Willpower is the power of the Green Lantern, and, he can kind of do anything with it. He gets... The lantern's like, hey, you should create a ring that can use the lantern's power, so you don't have to carry the lantern around with you. The ring will have to be touched to the lantern every 24 hours to recharge. Alan realizes that a man named Decker likely caused the train wreck, and Alan then goes temporarily mad, wanting to kill Decker until he makes and puts on the ring, which clears his mind, and he realizes he has to find another way to stop Decker. So Alan flies to Decker's house, phasing through the wall. Turns out Alan is only immune to metals. That means a wooden bat or a boot or a punch can, knock him out. Alan also only possesses his normal strength, but he is decently strong. Like he's not gonna say he's peak human, but he's above average human. So Alan grabs Decker and goes flying with him. He scares Decker into signing a confession by threatening to drop him. Right after signing the confession, Decker dies of a heart attack, and Alan makes his Green Lantern costume. Boom! That is the first appearance of Green Lantern. And then we got Crack Comics number 3, which, again, not much happening. So that is 10 comics today, baby! So marks the day we reach 300 comics read. Pretty cool, if you ask me. So, speaking of that, I've been gone for 4 days. And before that, I was gone for another 4 days, and there was 2 videos in between. I'm sorry about that. Won't happen again, I promise. We're back to dailies. Now, getting into today, we start with Detective Comics number 41. Now, this is a very Robin-focused issue. It's very focused on Robin. There's not a lot of Batman, which I actually enjoyed that. Basically, in this issue, there's this private school, right? A groundskeeper is found dead, and a boy is kidnapped from the school on the same night. The next day, after hearing about this, Bruce has Dick enroll in the school to investigate. There's a very murder mystery type adventure with this. They meet the different faculty, and they're like, okay, I'm putting away a mental note for this guy. There's the mysterious history teacher, this one guy who failed the kidnapped student off a test, and an eccentric art teacher, from what I remember. Turns out, the groundskeeper was killed by an escaped insane asylum inmate who has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the plot. Literally no relevance. It just happens to be a guy from an escaped asylum, so the murder has nothing to do with the kidnapped boy. It's just irrelevant. It just has no relevance. It's literally just to fill up pages. It has no relevance to the actual plot of the story. They don't even do anything with the inmate either. He gets arrested halfway through the issue. Anyways, the next night, the principal is found dead. Robin has a wireless phone inside his belt, and he uses it to talk to Batman a bit. Robin searches the boy's room and finds his diary, but then he's attacked by the masked man and has a chair smashed over his head. And the diary is stolen by the masked man, who burns it. A couple nights later, Robin sees the masked man while patrolling the halls, and follows him through a secret panel. Robin discovers the man is behind a secret counterfeit operation, money counterfeiting. Batman appears and helps knock out all the villains and the people working on the counterfeiting. And it turns out the kidnapper is Mr. Graves, the art teacher, who is a master engraver. He worked with the principal to start a money counterfeiting scheme. Graves kidnapped the boy because the boy had seen Graves enter the tunnel and had gone to the principal. When the principal started getting panicky, Graves killed him. And yeah, so it was a good issue. It was fun. Obviously there were other stories too. There was like Slam Bradley, there was Bart Spy, but you know, I won't talk about the Batman story because that's the only interesting one. It was a pretty good issue. Specifically talking about the Batman story, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I liked seeing Robin. I liked focusing on Robin a bit. I enjoyed some of the gadgets. I thought it was like a good sort of murder mystery. It was fun. It almost felt like a Slam Bradley issue in a way, something that would happen in a Slam Bradley story. Anyways, now we move on to Feature Comics number 34. And then we move on to Flash Comics number 7. Now, I don't have much to say about this one, but in the Flash part of this issue, some guy forces an inventor to give him a weapon that dissolves metal so he can rig an F1 race. So, let me go a little more in depth on that. There's an inventor, and he has a daughter, right? There's some guy who's really into betting, and he approaches the guy and his daughter, and he's like, hey, you have a metal melting device. You shoot the device, and it makes metal, poof, disappear into particles, I guess. I don't know how it works. They don't explain how the device works either. But I want that device, so I'm going to kill your daughter unless you give me that device. So the inventor is forced to teach him how to use it and give him the device. And then during the F1 race, Flash, stops it from stopping the F1 race. Hit Comics number 1, Hercules is cool, kind of, because it's like a Greek thing. Yeah, obviously a Greek hero. I think Heracles is the Greek one, actually, and Hercules is Roman. But yeah, there's not much else to talk about, really. There's not much to talk about even with Hercules. It's just, it's fine. Master Comics number 4, nothing. Blue Beetle, I guess, but nothing interesting happened with Blue Beetle today. More Fun Comics number 57, in The Spectre, Zor, who is a magician, Spectre trapped on the moon using a ray, tricks a man into helping him, and then traps the same man with the ray. Zor has Jim Kerrigan, who is the Spectre, framed for murder and attempts to kill Clarice, Jim's love interest. Jim talks to God, and God says Ectobane can defeat evil. So Jim makes a coffin out of Ectobane and traps Zor in it, saving Clarice and clearing his name. However, the man that Zor trapped on the fucking moon is just trapped, I guess. He doesn't get free. The Spectre never goes to free him, so he's just up there. Canonically, he's just up there now, forever. He's stuck there, which sucks for him. Yeah, I guess he's just stuck there until someone saves him, but I don't know. I don't think they're gonna pick that back up. So that's unfortunate for him. In Dr. Fate, some bald guy is killing people with fire so he can go to another world, and Dr. Fate turns him into a statue. It was a pretty wacky plot. Moving on to Mystery Men Comics number 12, nothing much happened here. Oh, wait a second. Master Comics doesn't have Blue Beetle. I don't know why I was talking about Blue Beetle. I mixed it up with Mystery Comics, which is this one, which also has nothing happening in it, funnily enough. Moving on, we have National Comics number 1, where we see the birth of one of the most iconic superheroes of all time. Generally seen as a pretty American superhero, but I think they can be more than that. A hero for the people. Pretty old, technically, but they look youthful, right? Of course. Introduced in the 1940s, I am talking about one of the most iconic superheroes of all time. The one, the only, Uncle Sam. That's right, Uncle Sam gets his own fucking comic. Uncle Sam, so that's just military propaganda. National Comics is just a government propaganda comic. 1940s? What? United States propaganda in the 19... What? That's crazy. I What? Moving on to New York World's Fair Comics number 2. This one's just basically a bunch of the most popular DC characters at the time. They go to the New York's World Fair and have crazy adventures. Right? There's Superman, Slam Bradley, Batman, Zatara, etc. And that, folks, is only 9 comics today, because I do want to do the 2 Nickel comics, because Nickel Comics releases 2 at a time on the same day. So tomorrow will be 10, maybe 11, we'll see. It'll be 11, tomorrow will be 11. No, tomorrow will be 10, Don't worry about it, don't worry about tomorrow, I'll figure it out. That's for me to figure out, not you. I'm just going to rattle off 4 comics are by today that had nothing happen in them. Nickel Comics number 5, Nickel Comics number 6, Slam Bang Comics number 5, Smash Comics number 12. Absolutely nothing happened of interest in any of those books. Bullet Man is fine. I think those are the last 2 issues of Slam Bang. I'm sorry, Nickel. Those are the last 2 issues of Nickel Comics. And, Bullet Man not really doing anything. I understand why he didn't get popular. Now, we move on to Wiz Comics number 6, in which Dr. Sivana imports a bunch of wacky animals from Venus and puts them in a circus, hoping to make a lot of money. The animals go wild, forcing Captain Marvel to save the day and drown all of them. That's right, he collects all the animals in a big blanket and throws them in the ocean to let them drown to death, I guess. Seems a little cruel to me, but maybe I'm wrong. Moving on to Action Comics number 27, to start with Superman. Lois is actually nice to Clark for one. Throughout the entire issue, she's like pretty nice to him. There's a couple moments where she's a bit mean, but she's mostly nice to him, which is crazy. That never happens. Ever. This is crazy. This is a big change in Golden Age Lois Lane. Also, Lois and Clark discover that the Brentwood Rehabilitation Home is secretly abusing the children, using them for manual labor to sell goods. Where have we seen this storyline before? Surely not in a different Action Comics issue. What? There's a really fun couple pages where Okay, so the 2 people that own the Brentwood Rehabilitation Center are a wife and a husband. There's one scene where Superman is following the husband throughout the home, and the husband's running, and Superman's walking after him, and the husband just throws thing after thing after Superman, hoping it'll kill him. He throws knives, he throws boiling hot water, he throws an anvil, and Superman just kind of tanks all of it and kind of trolls him. And that was a really fun section of the book. It's probably one of the funny Superman gags I've read so far on this journey. Superman saves the day as always, forcing the 2 owners to go to jail and replacing them with a better one. And despite there being a lion on the cover of Action Comics number 27, there is no lion in this issue. There was not a single lion. The closest thing we got was a dog. But then, the better superhero. In Adventure Comics number 53, our man guess what he does? He fights a fucking lion. That's my boy. Unfortunately, nothing about the rest of the issue is very interesting. Our man just kind of, whatever. But he fights a freaking lion. And he did what Superman couldn't. And I have to give him props for that. In All-American Comics number 17, Green Lantern, Alan Scott stops some racketeers. Then we got Blue Beetle number 3 and Crack Comics number 4. Damn, this was a short day, because really nothing happened. There wasn't a whole lot. I'm writing less, I think, because I realized I don't really need to explain every single plot line, because most of them are kind of bad, and also just boring and not good. So today we start with Detective Comics number 42. This is a good one. I really like this one. So Bruce Wayne goes to a party and he's introduced to a promising painter named Anton. So there's this guy who Bruce is close with who is sort of bringing up Anton, and he's like, "Hey, I discovered this artist, and I'm trying to help him make it big." So there's this guy named Mikov who hates Anton because Mikov's sister killed herself when Anton didn't love her back. This ends up having zero relevance to the plot, and I don't even think it's brought up again. Suddenly, after a couple days, Anton's paintings start killing people. A knife appears in one of his portrait's necks. There's the painting, and then a real knife is stabbed into the neck of the painting, and it's discovered there. And then the person the portrait is of ends up dying, the same way that the painting depicted them dying, or the knife was shoved into their throat. This happens a few times, in different ways, obviously. It's not a knife every time. Bruce starts to investigate, and eventually learns the next victim will be some rich guy who plans to be on a boat when the attack is likely to happen. Bruce sends Robin to protect him. Robin manages to save the victim, but the killer, wearing a green skull mask, escapes. Bruce decides to have his own portrait painted by Anton to trick and capture the killer. The next day, Bruce and Robin find the portrait with a bullet hole in its head. When the killer tries to shoot Bruce that night, it's actually a dummy. Bruce wasn't there. Batman defeats the killer, and it turns out to be the rich guy who wanted to introduce Anton to the world, hoping to make him famous and win big money. I really like this issue. I thought it was great. I thought it was really fun. I think Anton was cool. It was cool. Like, he was actually like devastated by all the stuff happening because of his paintings. Like, he was worried nobody was wanting his paintings anymore, and that was pretty cool. The way Bruce solved it was fun. The little trick he did, the moment with Robin on the cruise, all that was fun. It was a really fun issue, and I think it was like a really good, almost commentary on the exploitation of people by producers. So when someone discovers an artist, managers almost the exploitation that managers do, and I thought it was almost a commentary on that almost. Now we move on to Future Comics number 35. Fucking hate it. Flash Comics number 18. There's racketeers, blah, blah, blah. We've seen this story a billion times. Every other issue, there's some racketeer business in these 1940 comics. Hit Comics number 2. Not a hit, I must say. Not a hit. Master Comics number 5. And we finally reach More Fun Comics number 58, where we get the Spectre, and there's some guy who wants to kill his business partner because he's been stealing money from the business and doesn't want to go to jail. The Spectre goes on a nice little adventure to save the day. Spectre explodes someone, which is crazy. And for some reason, the Spectre gets summoned into the clouds for a bit, and that's never really explained. That just happens. It's just to delay. It's literally just to fill pages. It's very obviously just to fill pages, and they never explain why that happened. It just happened. In Dr. Fate, the Book of Thoth, a powerful book full of dark magic, is stolen. This is also the first appearance of the Tower of Fate. Inza's penthouse falls off the building, and Dr. Fate turns it to dust, saving Inza and the people below. In case you don't know, Inza is like Dr. Fate's partner, I guess, sidekick. Dr. Fate uses magic to detect who stole the book and where they are, and takes Inza to the small island where the village resides on. The villain. Not the village. The villain begins using the same spell that sunk Atlantis, but Fate stops him in midair, causing the evil magician to fall to his death. The magic, for some reason, brought the trees to life, which doesn't really make sense, because it's like a killing spell. It destroys stuff and like sinks it. So I don't know why the trees are coming to life, and although they also want to kill Dr. Fate and Inza, even though those two saved all the trees. It makes no sense. But, Fate turns the trees back to normal and zaps the book into the dust, throwing it into the ocean, which also kills a bunch of fish because the book's magic is so powerful. Mystery Men Comics 13, National Comics 12, Nickel Comics 7, and Nickel Comics 8. And with that, folks, we are finished. As always, and let's begin. Today we start with Slam Bang Comics number 6 and Smash Comics number 13, neither of which had anything special happen. Then we move on to Special Edition Comics number 1, where we see 2 fun Captain Marvel stories and 2 boring ones. The first 2 involve Billy helping a boxer, and the second one, he deals with a haunted house. Those are the 2 fun ones. The other ones are boring, and I honestly don't remember what they're about. I think one of them has to do with like stocks or something. It's a little confusing. Then we move on to Wiz Comics number 7. Obviously with Captain Marvel, we see Billy is sent to report on a freighter, and the captain grabs him and throws him overboard. A couple months later, Billy's boss tells him the freighter went missing a while ago, and a group of planes went missing in a similar area recently, and he wants Billy to go investigate. He wants the 9-year-old to go investigate missing planes in the Arctic. Okay, fine, I guess. You can do that. You can send 9-year-olds to do that in the 1940s, apparently. Then, the 9-year-old Billy Batson flies a plane over the Atlantic Ocean, and he arrives in the Arctic and finds a fisherman who tells him the story of the cavemen. These primitive people that found the people on the planes and took them down and, killed them all and stole the planes. So, Billy gets in his plane to find these cavemen, but a time bomb, which was hidden in the plane, goes off, exploding his plane. He nearly dies, but he shouts Shazam, saving his life, and then a polar bear attacks him while he's Captain Marvel. He's Captain Marvel now, because he shouted Shazam, and a polar bear attacks him, and he fights the fucking polar bear. He, smashes it into the ground. He eventually spots the planes he's looking for, but then they vanish out of thin air. And then he's, captured by the cavemen, and they keep calling him White Boy. They call him White Boy, 3 times. which is funny because they are also white. I'm pretty sure they look pretty white to me. Rodney Stark is the guy who owned the freighter and is the leader of the cavemen. He discovered the cave full of the cavemen frozen in ice and found a way to revive them. And he plans to have thousands of these cavemen who have super intellect, by the way, for some reason, because they were frozen in ice for millions of years. They have super smarts. And he plans to use them to make copies of the stolen planes and take over the world. For some reason, the cavemen are invincible, but Captain Marvel manages to destroy all the planes anyways and save the day. I thought this issue of Captain Marvel was decent. I thought it was fun. It was fun. That's all I can say, really. Action Comics 28. Superman. Clark and Lois are at their office when they're ordered to go report on a thief dressed in a leopard leotard. So they go to the local circus after hearing about a strongman who works there who matches the description of the thief. The strongman is named Herculo, and he publicly challenges Superman to a fight. Clark comes up with a scheme to catch the thief and covers the money. Okay, he gets a bunch of money, and he sort of brags about it loudly, and he gives some of it away, and then he covers some of it in powder. And then he's attacked by the thief who appears, who takes the money. But the powder is actually red hand-turning powder, and it turns your hands red when you touch it. Some kid says, boy, oh boy, I don't know what this guy's problem is. I don't know what his problem is. He's a weirdo. He's a weirdo. Man, that's all I can say. Clark becomes Superman while everyone is in the tent, and then Superman and Herculo do their fight for everyone to see. Superman wins easily. Superman does some stunts to please the crowd. Meanwhile, the ringmaster enters the clown's quarters, only to discover that he is the thief. His hands are red due to the powder Clark put on the money. So Clark's stupid plan actually worked. The clown was an ex-strawman whose jealous Herculo took his job. Superman and Herculo worked together to take down the clown. And they did pretty good. They take down that loser villain guy. I thought this issue was fun. And that's really all I can say about a lot of these early issues. But I thought this one... I think there's a trend going on where Lois is starting to be a little nicer to Clark. Like, she's still kind of mean to him, right? And I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. He deserves a little bit. Especially in the earlier issues, he deserved it. But now, Clark's kind of mellowing out on the incel stuff. Incel is a very different thing. Clark is starting to mellow out on the incel stuff. And Lois is starting to be nicer to him, which I think is nice. Adventure Comics 54... I got nothing for you. All-American Comics number 18, Alan, aka Green Lantern, meets a woman who tells him her brother has been framed. Alan finds the man who framed him and gets him to confess right before he dies. All-Star Comics number 2 is just a collection of stories from some of the most popular characters at the time, like Green Lantern, Jay Garrick, and I want to say Blue Beetle, but I'm not sure. No, the Spectre, not Blue Beetle, the Spectre. Batman number 3 is just a bunch of fun stories with following Batman and Robin, obviously. Especially The Ugliest Man of the World, and the one where Robin goes to like a preparatory school. Also, there's one where Catwoman is wearing a goofy-ass mask. I don't know why she's wearing that. I hope it's gone after this issue. I hope she never wears that again. Big 3 number 1 is the final issue of today, and it features stories of the 3 biggest Fox Features Syndicate comics at the time. Blue Beetle, Samson, and Flame. The 3 biggest of Fox Features Syndicate, which I guess was a comic company. And that's all I have for you today. That's my 10 comics. So thank you all for watching. Goodbye, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.